Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another pro-revenge Reddit video. In our first story, harass me, treat me like crap. That's going to cost you 5 years' salary. Let's jump right in. For some background, a bit over 6 months prior to the start of this story, we had a change up at the company I worked for. The old owner was a great guy that was retiring and handing the company off to his son, a real piece of crap just out of business school type. The son, with the mentality that the company is now his, went about restructuring, namely reassigning teams to different projects and leaving those that remained in their old positions to pick up double, if not triple, the workload. He did this all in the name of saving a little money. Unfortunately, my department, Safety Engineering, of which I was the team lead, was not spared from this effort. In the end, I had it out with the boss and department head. Ultimately, it cost the company 3 months with my entire department working 80-plus hour weeks, and it forced a huge year-end bonus to be paid out to us. Unfortunately, after my initial meeting with the new boss, the son, he took a liking to me in a really bad way. Essentially, he really liked me and wanted to go out with me or sleep with me, or however you want to put it. He even enlisted his friends and secretaries to help him. It went on for months, just blatant sexual harassment. They even made comments about me losing my late husband, that I should just get back on the horse, so to speak. I kept everything, every email, every voicemail, and went to my best friend, who happens to be a really good lawyer, a contract lawyer to be exact, so not exactly their area of expertise, but they knew enough to help. This friend drafted a letter to the boss, essentially a stop or we're going to start a big case over this kind of thing. And yeah, everything stopped. However, I was then moved from working in office to a work from home arrangement. I knew what was coming. They were going to do their best to get rid of me, so I started documenting everything. But as luck would happen, I received an email chain from the bosses. A good friend of mine in the office who was in the email chain added me to the CC list. And wouldn't you know, it was back and forth communication of them discussing how they would get rid of me and pin the blame on me. The email chain was just disgusting. They hated me so badly and wanted me gone, but because of my contract, they would have to buy me out. But being the cheapskates they are, they wanted me gone for free. So the company bosses started a campaign to try and torment me. They first tried to say that because now that I work from home, they were required to install cameras in my home office to make sure I was being productive. Luckily, that did not work. You have to love contracts. They also tried assigning an impossible workload to me, but luckily my team and I were almost like family and they picked up the slack. After 3 months of this crap, I get an email and a phone call from the HR department saying I was getting laid off indefinitely because there was just no work for me. This was complete BS, given that we had several dozen projects we were working on. On a side note, in Ontario, there is no such thing as a layoff, as in the court's eyes, being laid off is considered an active dismissal, which is essentially the same as being fired. After this conversation with HR, I call my lawyer friend, almost in tears, just shouting, "Look what they're doing to me, help!" She calms me down and tells me this is such a good thing. We have so much evidence against them. I had already forwarded and printed everything off that was sent to me, and it was lucky I did because a scant few hours after I was laid off, my computer was remotely wiped clean. Everything was gone, leaving just a blank desktop. When I called the HR department to get copies of all my filed complaints, what do you know? Everything was gone. In their place was a bunch of BS reprimands that never happened, that I never signed or saw, dating months and months back, and all signed by the new boss, despite the fact that they were dated before he ever took control of the company. It was clear they were total bull, but I got copies of everything to add to my stack of records. I texted all my old colleagues to let them know what was happening and that I am basically gone. Like I said earlier, we were like family, and with me on the way out, they started looking for better employment. Not only that, but they contacted all their friends who worked for the company to do the same. I was laid off on a Monday, and on Thursday I walked into the office with my employment lawyer. I swear the main secretary was on the phone to security the second she saw me walk in, and they were at the door in a matter of a minute. My lawyer simply handed her a legal document, a summons to meet for mediation at his office on the next Friday. During the following week, I received so many calls and text messages from the bosses, friends, secretaries, and people I knew in the office to just be friendly with the owner, to just drop it. And that they wanted to bring me back and forget about everything. Like hell, I was going back to such a hostile work environment. Friday finally comes, and into my lawyer's office, my former boss walks in with a squad of 4 of his lawyers to settle the matter. Off the bat, he offers me 3 months severance to end all of this because I didn't have any evidence to rebut the fake paperwork they had on file. At this point, my lawyer starts to bring out all the paperwork we had, namely copies of every complaint I had ever filed, which were all signed by the bosses, HR, and myself. Luckily for our case, I had made sure to take a copy of each complaint when it was written up. They didn't think I had anything? Oh boy, were they wrong. My lawyer made the case that in court, it'd be obvious that all the paperwork they had on their end were forgeries. Nothing was signed by me, and he pointed out that there were dates with the boss's signature where he wasn't in the country, let alone working for the company yet. At that point, the boss and his lawyers went to speak privately. After about a half an hour, they came back with a much better offer, a full year's salary. But my lawyer was like, nah, we'll just go with what the contract says, plus go for damages in court. Given the recent changeover at the company, the lawyers seemed to know they couldn't afford this going to court, not to mention it would be so bad for the company's reputation. So they basically rolled over and asked, what do you want? We demanded 5 years' salaries, plus the average bonus I would have made for each year, plus all the legal fees paid. It was a big, big win. But it didn't end there. I got a taste of blood and wanted more. I made phone calls to several companies where I had contacts and found jobs for every member of my team, and several members of other teams. By the end of a week, the company lost 10 of its most talented people, not to mention most of those people had friends and colleagues that ended up following them to their new employers. The fallout was pretty bad. Before all of this, they had the pick of the litter when new university students graduated, but now, because they lost almost all of their senior people, they had no one to mentor new employees. Plus, word got out fast how they treat workers like crap, so no one with any talent would even think of getting near the company. As of today, the company is just a shell of its former self. It's still big, but it bleeds money. They also now have a problem with permanent staffing and are paying out the nose to hire subcontractors. Let's just say they don't make money like they used to. In fact, they have not started any new projects in something like 9 months. If something isn't done on the side of management to improve things fast, they will likely be going bankrupt in the very near future. Story number 2, the battle over the parking lot. This incident happened in the summer of 2018. I had a small part, but the real star was my landlord. A little background, it's common in my country to have apartment buildings next to houses, yard and all. I live in one such building. It has 10 apartments, 2 on each of the first 4 floors, 1 on the ground floor and 1 on the top floor. The top floor apartment is used by the landlord when he and his family come for vacations. He lives abroad. The rest are rentals. We also have a small backyard with a side entrance, important for later. Next to the building is an empty lot, also belonging to the landlord. We use it as a private parking space with signs visibly saying it's private. It takes 10 cars, 1 per apartment, and has a side entrance. Also, I was the longest tenant, so I was the superintendent. My job was to be the liaison between the tenants and the landlord and communicate any problems and concerns to him. The problem started when the house across the street from us was sold. A lovely old lady used to live there, but when she passed away, the house fell into disarray, especially the large yard. The new owners were Ken and Karen, fake names but lived up to the meme. They immediately began major renovations, which was acceptable, but they also started parking their cars in our two empty spots, one for the landlord and one for the lady on the ground floor that didn't own a car. At first, we would tell them they were reserved spots and they would move their cars, but when they noticed the spots remained empty, they parked there permanently. I had notified the landlord and he told me to take pictures, log every incident, and always notify the police. We started doing that every day. Ken is a local hotshot businessman, and every time we called the cops would cause a scene about us being jerks. He always got a fine, but he very blatantly proclaimed he would not pay. The worst part came about a month before the landlord's annual visit. They stopped using one of their cars and left it permanently in the front of the side entrance, blocking it. That was a huge issue. You see, the lady living on the ground floor is a renal dialysis patient and 3 times a week goes for a session at the local hospital. The ambulance brings her back and usually parks next to the side entrance because she is exhausted after every session. With Karen's car parked there, that wasn't doable anymore. They would not move it even when the police were called. I notified the landlord and tried to stop our own hothead from doing anything foolish. The calmest thing he proposed was slashing their tires. Finally, our landlord arrives. I hand him the photos and the logs and he calls Ken over. Tony, the landlord, calmly explains that they are not allowed to park in our space and tells them to move the cars. Ken's response was, "Who the hell do you think you are? I can park anywhere I want." Now, Ken thinks himself a big fish in our small town. But Tony is a big fish in a major foreign city, and he is very creative when somebody pisses him off. He tells us to leave the spot next to the side entrance open for the weekend, and he will take care of things. We do that, and Ken parks his car next to his wife's. Sunday evening, a tow truck arrives and unloads an old Citroen DS, also known as the Frog, which blocks in both of their cars. Monday morning, I wake up to the buzzer. When I go downstairs, Karen and Ken are there. They are both livid. They can't move either car. Tony joins me, all smiles. Ken sees him and blows a gasket. He starts shouting and cursing. Tony, still smiling, replies, "I don't see a problem. My car is legally parked. What are you going to do about it?" Ken angrily gets into his car and reverses back into the Citroen DS, seriously damaging both cars. Tony's smile became shark-like. He immediately called the police and he pressed charges against Ken. The aftermath. Tony had legally bought the DS from his cousin that owns a car repair and restoration shop. The car was a restoration project and was insured. The court found Ken liable for the damage done. They also found out he was true to his word and hadn't paid any of the tickets. The fines for the tickets alone were almost €2,000. He also leased both his cars, and they dropped him as a client immediately after purposefully causing an accident and damaging the leased car. They also sued for damages. Ken got another car, but he learned his lesson and hasn't parked in our spots ever since. This is John from /Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then hit that subscribe button. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.